Good afternoon. I'm Joe McDermott, Chair of the King County Council. I'm calling our meeting for Monday, October 23rd to order. And if I could ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Balducci. Councilmember Dembowski.
Here.
Councilmember Dunn.
Here.
Councilmember Gossett.
Here.
Councilmember Cole-Wells.
Here.
Councilmember Lambert. Councilmember Up the Grove. Councilmember Von Reitbauer.
Here.
Mr. Chair.
Here. Thank you. And if I could call on Councilmember Dembowski to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If able, please rise to salute the flag.
I don't do that.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And justice for all. Amen.
Oh my God. You got full hands here.
Thank you. Councilmember Dembowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move approval of our October 16th meeting minutes.
Councilmember Dembowski has put the minutes of our October 16th meeting before us. See no discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Opposed, nay. Thankfully, the motion carries. The minutes are approved.
Division, Mr. Chair.
Madam Clerk, are there any additions to the today's council agenda that you're aware of?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Colleagues? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk's office to distribute any amendments for items on today's council agenda that you have so that we can consider them ahead of taking up the item. And with that, I'd like to first call on Councilmember Gossett for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I just want to indicate for everybody who is gathered here in the King County Council that we have the privilege of being visited by four diplomats and leaders of Cuba who are here to participate as part of the the National Network of Cuba that's located in the United States of America. And they're having a conference here in Seattle, and I got an opportunity to visit and participate in it this Saturday. And I'd like to just introduce the visitors who are here. And Jenny Cole-Wells has joined me in introducing them. The first is the first Secretary of the Cuban Embassy in Washington, D.C. His name is Miguel Fraga. Could you hold your hand up, Miguel? Okay. Second is Sandra Ramirez, who is the director of the Cuban Institute for Friendship and with Peoples. Sandra, could you stand up? Third is Elizabeth Revolta, who is a staff of the center, and she represents the North American division of it. Elizabeth, could you stand? And last but certainly not least is Marta Andres. She's a correspondent with La Prensa, one of the key and most important national newspapers in Cuba. Marta. And if you would, Miguel, just say a few words on behalf of the delegation. We have a big agenda, but I'm sure my colleagues wouldn't mind you saying a few words on behalf of the Cuban government.
Well, thank you so much, Council Member. You know, Cubans are famous for long speeches, but I don't want to take too much of your time. I am here, and I have the privilege to be here representing my people, the people of Cuba. We start on December the 17th, 2014, a new moment in the bilateral relation between Cuba and the United States. We really believe it's what the majority of the Cuban people wants, but also is what the majority of the American people wants. We need to work together, and we can accomplish a lot. So it's a pleasure for me to be here in Seattle. It's my second time here in Seattle. We came because Seattle was, these last 2 days, the city of the friendship with Cuba. All the organizations, the solidarity organizations from all around the United States came to Seattle, and we are happy to be here to see what we can do. Well, how can we work together for the best of both countries? We have a lot of history together between Cuba and the United States, and we really believe that we can have a better future if we can start today. Thank you so much, Council Member, and thank you so much, King County Council.
Yeah. Since Jenny Cole Wells was co-sponsoring this visit with me, I'd like to give her a chance to say a few words.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chair and Councilmember Gossett, it's a real pleasure for me to be able to speak today in welcoming First Secretary of the Embassy of the Republic of Cuba, Miguel Fraga, whom I've had the pleasure to meet several times here in Seattle, but also was very appreciative when our King County Consul went to Washington, D.C. on our annual lobbying trip to Congress, and he helped us arrange a visit to the Cuban embassy. That was April of 2016. Mm-hmm. I believe it had just opened up very recently, or reopened, I should say. And they gave us a wonderful welcome, had a beautiful reception for us and tour, and then a very stimulating exchange in a conference room about U.S.-Cuba relations. It's something I will always remember. And also very special to me is that I did visit Cuba in 1999 on a women's delegation led by then Representative Velma Valoria. And we took medical supplies to Cuba. We were able to go by charter flight from Los Angeles on a special license to travel through the State Department at that time, and it was a very memorable trip. And then lastly, I'd like to say I have a love of Cuba and its people, and my husband and I were able to go there last year, and he the year before, but his grandfather was ambassador to Cuba. His name is Sumner Wells, and has rather a mixed reception in Cuba historically, but he was ambassador for several years. And in 1933, when dictator Machada was overthrown, and Sumner Wells and the U.S. Government supported the people against a dictatorship. And Sumner Wells, my husband's grandfather, had to hole up in the Hotel Nacional, which I've stayed at, and because of the government forces against him and what the United States was attempting to do to help out the Cuban people. So we have a real connection in so many ways with the Cuban government, and I'm just so happy that you're here today and to be a co-signer of this recognition for you. Thank you very much.
And then Jeannie Cole-Wells and I are going to come down and give you the recognition and take a quick picture. If other members want to join us, you can.
Councilmember Gossett, before we do that, Councilmember Von Reichbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Gossett and Cole-Wells, for taking the leadership on this. You know, like my colleagues, I had the privilege of visiting the embassy, and I had a chance to meet with Miguel, who opened up his house and his heart and his mind to good discussions that night. We had a really good discussion around the table about things that are happening between the United States and the Republic of Cuba. And while I have not had the privilege of visiting Cuba, every now and then I have a chance to utilize one of the exports of Cuba, a Maduro, Cohiba, and I did this weekend, and I was thinking of Cuba. So I haven't had the privilege of visiting, but I'm looking forward to that opportunity. But in the meantime, I will continue looking forward to seeing a Maduro, Cohiba, whenever I can. Thank you, Miguel.
They look like they know what that is. Okay, members that desire, we're going to take a quick picture and that's it. All four of us.
Pleasure. You're front and center. Where? Oh, okay. Oh, he's here.
No, okay.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to see you, Professor. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And now I'd like to recognize Councilmembers Dombowski and Dunn to lead the proclamation of Pro Bono Week here in King County.
Pro bono.
We'll get the squad. All right, good. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. This is our annual recognition. Councilman Dombowski, 6 years in recognizing, Pro Bono Week. Pro Bono Week is a time that we take to celebrate and recognize those that volunteer their time and effort in the service of others. The legal profession, we happen to be lawyers, covering lawyers. We're proud of the work that we do to help those who can't necessarily help themselves, those who don't have the means necessarily to litigate on their behalf or even partial needs to litigate on their behalf. And so every year we recognize the great work of lawyers across the region and the state for what they do and the agencies that support them in this effort. And so it's a tradition here at King County Council. I've done a lot of work in pro bono in my time, from lawyers helping hungry children to which is an organization that does emergency feeding, to being a board member, Eastside Legal Assistance Program, to working for the State Bar Association as a committee member, helping on legal aid and pro bono issues. And so what we know is that domestic violence is a serious issue in our state. And according to the most recent data, low-income domestic violence or sexual assault victims in Washington State experience an average of roughly 20 legal problems per household, which is twice the household average for the general low-income population. And there's more we can be doing for victims of domestic violence and others in the need of legal aid all across the county. And so I'm really proud to be here, and I'm going to hand it over to Councilman Dombowski to talk a little bit more about Pro Bono Week. Rod?
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. I think you covered most of the bases, but it is a good time to reflect on the value of pro bono work, ensuring that everybody in our country has access to the protections afforded by the United States, Washington State Constitution and laws, their civil rights and equal rights, and lawyers often bring those forth. One of the things that I've noticed, and we've heard repeatedly, is the value of pro bono legal assistance to folks in need in terms of the return on investment. And oftentimes that's what we're faced with here, making budget decisions. When we had our great budget crisis in the General Fund, one of the very few human services or general human services that was protected was work for lawyers and civil legal aid, because a little bit of money returns a great deal of investment to the community, ensuring that people get their benefits and have their rights protected with respect to housing and education and employment opportunities. So it's something that the council here has long stood by, even in the toughest of times. And we may be able to make an enhanced investment going forward with Vets and Human Services and Seniors Levy, depending on how that goes. It was prioritized there. So it's a real privilege to join you once again today in recognizing. I think we have perhaps additional speakers. Brad, Andy, and Ann, maybe, is who I've got in my notes, if they'd like to come forward and say a couple of words before we read the proclamation. And as they're coming up, I do want to acknowledge State Representative Mike Pleciotti, who's here from South King County, and he was the founder, as chair of the Equal Justice Coalition, of Celebrate Pro Bono Week. So, Representative Pleciotti, thank you for being here.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to see you.
Mike.
Good afternoon. Nice to see familiar faces. I'm Ann Daly, and I am the Pro Bono Services Director for the King County Bar Association, and here today to say thank you for your ongoing support of pro bono services. Councilmember Dembowski and Councilmember Dunn have talked about the importance, but just to paint a little bit of a picture about the impact of pro bono, in King County, the King County Bar Association this past year provided over 38,000 attorney hours in pro bono services to more than 10,000 residents in our county through 41 legal neighborhood clinics, to family law cases representing individuals, survivors of domestic violence, to housing work, and to debt creditor bankruptcy relief record. And so, as these two fine gentlemen have said, the impact is really amazing. It's a great program. We have great partners, many of whom are here. And again, just want to say thank you for your ongoing support of the important work that we do.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Crone with the Eastside Legal Assistance Program. Since 1989, we've been providing civil legal aid using staff attorneys and over 250 pro bono attorneys in East King County. Our pro bono attorneys provide 27 clinics every month. In addition to that, they provide lectures and other services to our clients. We are part of a larger team, some of whom are behind us here, statewide known as the Equal Justice Coalition. Here in King County, the King County Bar, Ann's Group, provides much of the pro bono services in West King County, while we provide the same services in East King County. By maintaining a robust volunteer attorney program, we are able to match with our staff attorneys and provide critical, time-sensitive care as well as general civil legal aid. Today, I'm here to thank you. Because King County support, we have the money to have full-time attorneys at places like Dawn. We also have staff attorneys who deal with over 500 domestic violence cases a year. That just scratches the surface. But our roots are still in our pro bono, where we began, where we reach thousands of families who support us. We know that we need to continue to grow, and at ELAP, that's what we're expanding ourselves to do, because we need to have more services. And we believe that the government agencies like you, private donors, and our cadre of pro bono attorneys is the best model to serve our residents. But I'm really here to say thank you. First, to you as a council who understands and supports the need for civil legal aid. Second, I want to thank you individually. I know many of you write checks to my nonprofit and other nonprofits who do legal aid in King County. A few of you have actually served on the ELAP Board of Directors, and one of you actually sang in the ELAP choir that produced a CD. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you and all of your councilmatic and personal support.
Is that me?
That's you. I wasn't going to rat him out. I was not going to use his name, but there you are, Reagan.
Solo?
I think I had too much punch that year.
And that's for you. You can play that at the holiday party. This is what enhanced interrogation sounds like. Seriously, it's bad. It is really bad.
Well, after that, I'm tempted just to stand here and sing a chorus of We Shall Overcome, but I will not do that, and I will save you the pain. Mr. Chair, members of the council, members of the audience, my name is Brad Furlong. I'm a 34-year member of the Washington State Bar Association. My wife and I own a two-person law firm up at Mount Vernon, and I have the distinct privilege and honor to be president of the Washington State Bar Association at this time. The bar is completely and thoroughly committed to advancing justice through pro bono programs. Our mission is to serve members of the public, to serve our members, and ultimately to champion justice. Pro bono work is one of the most significant ways I think that lawyers live up to that mission. The integrity of the legal profession and society as a whole, we believe, is measured by access to the rule of law, to its protections, and to its freedoms. Pro bono work lowers financial barriers and connects people in need to lawyers and legal services. Just some numbers, our service programs continue to grow. Last year, our members reported over 345,000 hours of time devoted to pro bono services. That's up to 40 years. I don't know how many people that served, but I think it was a lot. But it's no secret, and I'm going to keep talking about this, that despite those efforts, despite heroic efforts by our legal services groups, there is what I call a justice gap in this state. That there is a significant section of our citizenship that does not and cannot access justice and invoke the rule of law or many of our other democratic safeguards, while those with power, with those with economic power and those with privilege have unfettered access to the best legal services money can buy. That is not a level legal playing field. The Washington State Bar Association and myself personally, I want to take this year to see if we could start to level that playing field, especially for those that are traditionally marginalized by institutional barriers and by personal barriers that grow out of the privilege some of us own. We need to be responsive to people of color. We need to be responsive to women. We need to be responsive to people with different sexual orientations, with physical and mental handicaps. We need to provide access for people who are gender questioning or in transition. We need to reach all the marginalized people in this state who are the principal victims of there not being adequate access to justice. So I really hope that the thousands of hours of volunteer time that we're celebrating this week inspires us all, including members of legislative bodies, the executive bodies, and the judiciary, to really look forward to how we can improve access to justice and narrow that justice gap. I think it begins with recognizing that equitable access to justice is a fundamental necessity in a society, that we put our faith in the rule of law, and if we're going to do that, we need to provide access to every person that comes to our door. I don't think this is ancillary work. I think it's principal work that we all can engage in. So I want to thank you, the King County Council members, for publicly taking an opportunity to showcase the incredible difference that pro bono lawyers make to our system and our communities. Thank you for being among those elected officials who stand in partnership with us, understanding and seeking action towards an equitable society. If we stand together, I think we can create access. I'll close with this. Every act of pro bono service, every time we provide access to justice, especially to a marginalized person, we're moving closer to the ideal expressed on the doors of our nation's highest court. That's equal justice under the law. I hope we all can work together to do that. Thank you very much for this time, and thank you for your efforts and your recognition. Appreciate it.
You want to start it off? We are going to now read the proclamation.
Whereas our justice system is founded on the fundamental principles of equity and fairness for all, and pro bono services grant individuals access to legal representation regardless of their means, and
whereas nearly 3 in 4 Washington residents face urgent civil legal issues each year, including many of those you just heard of.
Whereas...
I jumped ahead.
Oh, we jumped ahead?
I'm just going the efficient.
Oh, we're going efficient. Okay. Whereas access to legal assistance can improve economic security.
Version,
I like that. Cliff notes. Cliff notes. Protect civil liberties to lead to a more just society. And
whereas legal services agencies, pro bono service programs, law schools, the ABA, the WSBA, the King County Bar Association, and local associations and law firms throughout the state have enlisted the services of volunteer attorneys to address the legal needs of low-income people.
Whereas all attorneys licensed in Washington State are encouraged to provide at least 30 hours of free legal services annually to those unable to obtain legal counsel, and
whereas in the year 2016, Washington State attorneys provided over 345,000 hours in volunteer legal help to individuals and families. Now, therefore, we, the Metropolitan King County Council, proclaim the week of October 22nd, 2017 as Pro Bono Week. And we encourage all attorneys who volunteer their time to continue to do so, and we extend our appreciation and thanks.
Very well.
All right. What we will do now is present to you all the proclamation. We'll do a photo, and then we'll have other colleagues come down and take a photo. Come on up.
Colin?
You take one of your Okay, Andrew will be the first guy.
lawyers does it take to take a picture? That's all right. Don't worry about it. Where did you find
Pete, we can't see you.
All right, thank you. Very much. Yeah, thanks again. Really
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, nice to see you. You take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, good to see you.
Well, take care. Thanks again.
Thank you. Under council rules, we offer the public an opportunity to make general public comments on the fourth Monday of the month. This comment period, we have some standing rules for public comment, and I will share those now with an apology in advance for those of you who are hearing them for the first time, because I will acknowledge they can sound harsh. However, unfortunately, given our past experience, we have found it necessary to have them in place. So those ground rules would be to limit matters to county government, may not be to not use this opportunity to promote or oppose a campaign for election of any person to any office, limit your testimony to 2 minutes, and should not be on items on today's council agenda because we have a public hearing on those as well, and should not include obscene speech. If a speaker fails to abide by these restrictions, I will rule the speaker out of order and may require them to return to their seat. With that said, I have a long list of people signed up for public comment today, and the first three are Vanessa Harris, Lisa Maurer, and Ahmed Alkandari. As your name is called, if you'd approach either one of the two podiums, and if needed, we'll happily get the microphone out for your use.
Who's first?
Vanessa Harris, Lisa Maurer, Ahmed Alkandari.
Give the microphone, please.
Our mobility devices take a little time. She shouldn't have even had to get out of here.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to say thank you from me and behalf of my neighbors at Center Park.
Thanks.
Lisa Maurer, Ahmed Alkandari. No problem. After Ahmed, Ahmed will be Sari Moore.
Just I have some words to say to you on behalf of all the neighbors.
Yes.
In Central Park. Just I want to say thank you to understand what we need. Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
So likewise, I'm here to say thank you for hearing us, and we really appreciate being able to continue to have the service continued in the best way that we can for everybody. And thank you again, and thank you for hearing our concerns for all mobility devices and so forth, for allowing us to be able to have a bus that serves all of our needs.
Ms. Moore, followed by Alex Zimmerman and Tennille Cato.
Hello, council members. I wish to thank you on behalf of the Center Park Resident Community Council for hearing and responding to our needs on this matter. Hopefully we can continue to work together as friends on this, and maybe if this first new bus works out well, maybe finances will allow about a year down the line to buy a second one for backup. Because I know that the company that is behind the coach the council wishes to buy, the chassis is Freightliner. Freightliner is a very good, well-known, reputable company. And I happen to have know of that company because of my own personal family background. And I know that I will continue to stand on my ADA rights for myself and my neighbors who cannot. And we look forward to working with you guys continued down the line through the months and the years. And I hope you stay warm and dry. May God and Jesus bless everybody present in this room. In his name, hallelujah. Goodbye.
Hi. My Dory W. Führer, a Nazi social democrat mafia with progressive Gestapo principle. My name Alex Zimmerman. I'm president of Stand Up America. God bless this chamber. You know what it means? A pure Nazi communist freak. You know what it means? Who give a chance speak one time per month for 2 minutes about problem what is we have. And I spoke about this 100 times. Snohomish, Pierce Country, you can speak twice per week. Twice per week. About everything what is you want. Why you acting like a Nazi, communist, a bandita, a pure fascist? Look how many people here. So maybe 1,000 will become when you will give chance speak same twice per week like Snohomish in Pierce Country. These people give you for 3 minutes, not for 2. Why? Because you are pure freaking a fascist. Is this exactly what has happened right now? It's not surprise me right now. Societe right now, #1 criminal city in the United States of America. It's because you are all criminals. And most from your attorney. So you double criminals. It's exactly what I want to explain to you. You look how many people came. So I demand right now, stopping acting like a Nazi communist freaking idiot. You know what it means? A bandito. In open King Country Council chamber like Snohomish and Pierce Country doing twice per week for 3 minutes. Why you acting like a fascist? So right now I speak to everybody who listen to me. Stand up, America. We need to clean this dirty chamber from this bandita, from this mafia, who suck blood and money from us. Include $100 billion for sound transistry. Look how many problems have people here. You, us, dirty people, what is I know. Is this exactly? It's exactly what is I talking. Stand up, America. Stand up, Seattle. Stand up, King Country. And clean this dirty chamber.
Ms. Cato, followed by Chuck Lair and Scott Silva.
Good afternoon. My name is Tennille Cato, and I'm the Vice President of Stand Up America, and I 100% support Alex Zimmerman, because in order to really address the issues that are on this agenda, all we ask is that you support opening Bertha Room, because it will restore all freedom of speech and the Constitution when it comes to, in City Hall, when it comes to all people being heard and being inclusive on the decisions. All the chambers are way too small. As you can see, there's government and mostly corporations and very few community members. There's me, I'm just the messenger. The community wants to be heard more. They want to ask more questions. They want answers to them. They want to express their ideas and their concerns pertaining to the crises that are affecting them in the community. And one way to stop us from calling you a Nazi social democratic mafia or a one-sided fascist party, or that you're using Nazi Gestapo principles to punish people who just have an opposite opinion, open the Bertha Room in honor of the woman who was the mayor 100 years ago. It holds up to or over 300 people. We can do it once a week for open, honest conversation, unlimited, so that we can ask the questions that we want answers to and literally make a change by restoring our freedom of speech and the Constitution. And as government employees, it is your job to protect that. So if you don't have the full control to open it, you can at least show that you support it so that people have an equal opportunity to be heard once a week on City Channel and City Hall to restore freedom of speech in the Constitution so we can end the crises that are going on in Seattle today. Because as of right now, we are the #1 fascist city in the world because all of the government and corporations are controlling everything. And he is right. It is sucking the life, the blood, and the money out of our communities. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Mr. Lehrer, followed by Mr. Silva and Stan Straker.
Hi, I'm Chuck Lehrer. Thanks for giving me the time to speak to you this afternoon. Just full disclosure, I'm not speaking for Metro or for the union, but I would like to bring attention to the fact that drivers, as we've heard, are well appreciated by the community and work very hard in the process of delivering the community to their destination safely. Unfortunately, many of those drivers are not being given back wages that they're due. The federal L&I awarded $6.4 million in willful knowledge by the county for not providing those back wages. But there are hundreds of drivers who still have not received nor will receive those back wages that they're entitled to. Now, that was the federal labor and industry that awarded $6.4 million, but did not cover all work done. Having talked with the state labor and industries, they're saying that we need to file individually. That'll be hundreds and hundreds of drivers that will need to file individually in order to get those back wages. I'm here today to ask you as council members, knowing well what the feds concluded, that you do the right thing for these folks who are maintaining and delivering the passengers in a safe destination. So I would like you to take into consideration the fact that those back wages are due. And as the county, you have the ability to keep people from having to file individually. Realize that we have more and more immigrants, more and more folks where English is a second and third language. And by having to file individually in order to acquire those back wages, they will lose out on that. So again, I encourage you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Silva? Mr. Straker, followed by Channing Macfadden.
Hello, council members. My name is Stan Straker. I've had the privilege of working for King County Metro Vehicle Maintenance for 15 years. I'm a mechanic at Atlantic Base. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak at this council meeting. I'd like to talk about the concerns from the fact that we haven't had a contract coming up in a year, which is bad for morale. But when vehicle maintenance workers found out that we were not getting our shift differential retro pay, it's a morale crusher. We are working in a safety-sensitive jobs, highly skilled, also hazardous conditions at times. It has been past practice to pay retro wages and differential. As a safety committee member, I'm concerned for my coworkers and safety and productivity. My second concern is future contracts. It won't be long before ATU 587 will be negotiating for the 2019 contract. By Metro not paying retro on shift differential this contract, it could set a precedent. It feels like we are being punished. It feels like we are being penalized for voting no on the first contract vote. It's not all about the money. Some vote no for other reasons like working conditions, supporting other work group concerns. When the contract is voted down, it gives the union a chance to meet with the workers and find why they voted no. When meeting with the contract committee to try and work through the concerns, it could influence workers' votes in the future. We better vote yes so we don't have any takeaways, which is not very democratic. A happy workforce will be more productive and safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Channing, followed by Michael Miller and Maxine Schimmel.
I'm Channing Macfadden. I make it clear, as Chuck did, that I am a Metro driver, but I do not represent either King County or the union. It's a personal thing. My appeal to you would be much along the lines of Chuck Lair's. There are a lot of wages that are simply not being paid by one economic trick or another. And since in this particular case, lots of part-time people, they're out because when the Federals made this decision on the $6.5 million, they were only looking at overtime, which can only be created by being a full-time driver. So if it was wrong for us to not be paid for the work that we did, it is equally wrong for our part-time drivers to not be paid for the work that they did. But somehow Metro made up an economic thing and said, well, yes, we'll just do this because that's what the federal decision is. I think it's important that we address all unpaid wages, and that if we have to review the accounting process by which people are cheated out of their money. Thank you very much.
Mr. Miller, Maxine Schimmel, Philip Blake. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Miller. I'm a 25-year mechanic for Metro, and I'll let it be clear I don't represent the union or King County. But my concern is our retro pay that we're going to be not receive because they're telling us that we're not going to get it, but we're still paying out of our pocket. We haven't received a tool allowance for 2 years. The average mechanic has $50,000 and above of tools down there, and we're expected to buy tools to do this job. And we are subsidized a little bit, but it doesn't account for what we are paying out of our pocket. And also, our wages, the contract when it's signed, it's going to date back to 2 years ago, but we're not going to receive those wages that we supposedly got 2 years ago. And that's my concern, and all of the mechanics that's concerned down there. We're working with high voltage. We're not getting hazardous duty pay. There's a lot of issues that we're not getting. And I feel that we're being ripped out of these wages and benefits, and it's a big concern. And I think you as a council could do something about that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maxine Schimmel. I am a part-time operator for Metro, but I do not represent Metro or the union in any way. I'm here to bring to the attention of the council the wrong that's happening by not paying part-time operators in this recent round of retroactive pay that full-timers did receive. Just echoing the other drivers before me as well. I, as a part-time operator, will not receive and am not included in any of the investigation that happened on a federal level for Metro, and I find it hugely unfair. It's not like the quality of my work is any different than a full-time operator, yet I'm not being recognized in any way and being fully left out. And I am here to ask you to consider all work and not just full-time work because it's convenient.
Mr. Blake, followed by Payman Fazeli and Shahab Yazandani.
My name is Philip Blake. I'm a part-time operator at Metro. I'm not representing the union, and I'm certainly not representing Metro. In the same vein as my brothers and sisters ahead of me, part-time drivers are not being compensated on the wage theft that the federal government found in King County. And as members of the King County Council, we believe that you guys have the power to make this equitable. In addition to that, the vehicle maintenance, the way that our union is negotiating our contract, the vehicle maintenance to not be compensated for the differential payment over the last year is completely unacceptable. And what we're hoping to do is to garner enough attention to these issues that the King County Council will do the right thing. Thank you.
Payman Fazeli, Shahab Yazandani, with apologies.
That's okay. My name is Shahab Yazdani. I want to defer my time to Chuck Lear.
Mr. Lures already spoke.
Yeah, he already spoke. I want to give my time to him.
I would ask you to use your time, Mr. We've already heard from Mr. Lure today. We have a list of a total of 24 people who've signed up. I'd like to be able to hear from everybody at least the first time.
All right, I am done.
Ms. Richard, followed by Kathleen Sidwell and Betsy Howe.
Okay, good day, everyone. I guess my major concern is I'm constantly dealing with racism and discrimination in Seattle, King County, and you say, oh well. And we have pro bono week. We don't have fair representation in this county, in the city, in the state, and the clock is still ticking. And I think it's very unfair and unjust to have a society like you want us to get up and pledge our allegiance to that, where we have black ball players on their knees in the 21st century saying, oh no, you're not treating us right either. So what's wrong here, huh? And you want me to support an establishment when somebody comes down here and calls you Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazis and say you're a Gestapo order, that you don't appreciate free speech from people that right now we're in the midst of an election for a new mayor, a female at that. And I'm almost concerned about what they're going to be able to do, or she, because of the fact that, like she said, Bertha Landis, she's been dead for a long time, huh? And you going to bring some bones up from out of the grave from what she was doing around here before I came on the face of this earth? Hello, somebody. It's dead up in here. It's really, really dead. But the lights up in here are still flashing. And I'm going to continue to set that light right on up in here until you make a change. See, they talk about change, but you need to be the change first. Then these other people can see what change really looks like. But if you're participating in this collusion and in this flam-flam, we're not going nowhere.
Ms. Sidwell, followed by Ms. Howe.
I always have my speech written.
Mine's a little different. I'm here on behalf of our community because you are going to be considering a change to zoning that's going to benefit the Skyway community. And I've known Nevzat Chankaya for over 20 years, and we were delighted when we found out that he'd purchased the old building, the Milk Barn building on the corner across from his coffee stand that he's had for almost 20 years. So we were understandably upset when we were told that he would not be allowed to have a drive-through because of the existing zoning overlay. 20 years ago, the idea behind the zoning, as we understand, was to encourage pedestrian activity in an urban village-type setting with parking on the outskirts and a walkable community. Needless to say, that hasn't happened. Our business community is struggling, and we don't even have sidewalks in most of the area. It's always been a dream of Nevzat's to open a coffee shop for people to come in and be able to visit and be out of the weather. And it was definitely a good decision to purchase a building within the community that he has worked and lived in all these years. This is where his solid customer base is. But it certainly wouldn't be prudent to open a coffee shop only without a drive-through, since that is the type of customers he has had up to now. There are many people in Skyway who are eager to come to a sit-down coffee shop, but it will take time to build up the clientele, and a drive-through is a logical part of a coffee shop today. There was one in the existing building anyway. And we are sure that Nevzat, the traffic engineers, and the architect will make sure that safety is a priority in renovating the building and reestablishing the drive-through. Thank you again for your consideration.
Ms. Howe, followed by Glenn Morgan and Daryl Johnson.
Thank you. My name is Betsy Howe. I'm the founder of Kumwa, which is Citizens Opposed to OSS Management Washington. I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of you with the Board of Health, primarily regarding septic systems. The Board of Health tabled a proposed fee, and the media dubbed it the turd tax. But since that time, since the board decided to set that aside, a 64% increase was passed for point of sales associated with septic systems. And there's another fee being presented to the Council's Committee on Health, Housing, and Human Resources. This is like whack-a-mole government when we have to go from committee to make sure these issues die. Sadly, the fee increases are justified by erroneous claims of contamination, pollution, disease, and a burden on the county's enforcement staff. But through public records requests, we've actually learned that there are no water wells in King County that have been contaminated by septic systems. No children in King County have fallen to their death in a septic tank. Claims of compliance over the last 14 years, we went through every 4,000 complaints on septic systems to find that there were duplicate records, sewer-related problems, no problems at all, and came to the conclusion that 0.4% of the septic systems in King County generate a valid complaint. We do know the biggest problem of pollution are combined sewer overflows, raw sewage being dumped into open water by the sewer system. If King County really wants to be the best run government, our elected officials need the best information. On this issue, county staff has failed all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. For the record, my name is Glenn Morgan, and I'm the executive director of the Citizens Alliance for Property Rights. And one thing I just wanted to mention here is that sometimes we think elected officials get a little bit more attention than they deserve for some of the policy issues that you end up being in charge of at times. And bureaucrats are often overlooked for their accomplishments, be those good or bad, in the situation that you're in. And as you know, we were very active here in King County and actually in other counties around the state as well in opposing the septic fee increases that have been proposed periodically around the state. And but we also think it's important that we recognize accomplishments as those are made at times. And so with that, I wanted to have maybe Betsy can show you. We are going to present here based on a vote of our board. A popular and actually popular input from some of our members from around the state. This is our Pinocchio Award, and it's presented to the government bureaucrat for whom the truth is a low priority. and who is willing to publicly prove that by their statements. And so with that, I wanted to present this award to Daryl Rogers from the Health Department here in King County. And it's actually a functional unit. He can use it at home or put it on his wall. But either way, I just wanted to give that to you today. It's a little nicer than some of the other presentations, I think. But anyway, I just wanted to give it to the clerk here, and thank you so much for your time.
Is it
used? Oh, no, this is brand new. Yeah, there we go.
Mr. Johnson, followed by Mr. Johnston.
Hi, my name is Daryl Johnson. I'm Vice President of the Citizens Alliance for Property Rights, and I would like to make a couple observations about the continuing operations of the apparatchiks that work for King County. The King County has gone after rural residents repeatedly for various ways of extorting money from them and controlling them, starting with trying to take 2/3 of everybody's property back in the early 2000s. This latest round with the septic systems, I want to make a couple of scientifically factual points. One, a septic tank properly installed and a properly installed drain field is the most environmentally friendly, efficient, and effective means to dispose of human waste that there is known to man. I would also like to point out at the same time that the various selected unelected bureaucrats have been striving to essentially expand the size of their office and the number of people. In the last 2 decades, the combined sewage systems, meaning the centrally controlled sewage systems run by King County and a couple small other urban areas, have dumped in excess of a couple billion, that's B as in 1 times 10 to the 6 gallons of raw sewage into various waterways. And I'll give you a couple. Like in 2017, of course, we know this recent one that's been going on with the West Point, which is an excess of 25 million. But there's an endless litany from West Point alone. In 2010, there was 8.7 million. 2009, 10 million. For instance, in May 2008, there was 6.4 million gallons of raw sewage dumped into Ravenna Creek near the UW. The illustrious Brightwater dumped millions into North Creek. So septic tanks, all they do is perk up on the ground and smell bad, and people get them fixed. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Johnston, followed by the Honorable Michael Fuller, and then Tara Barnes.
Council, once again, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name's Mark Johnston, and I just want to let you all know that it's a beautiful day in Skyway today, but there are some dark clouds on the horizon, and I mean the King County planning horizon. The King County website details the community engagement vision for development of sub-area plans. For example, opportunities to get involved in the plan for your area of King County will primarily occur during the calendar year in which the CSA plan is scheduled. For Skyway, that's 2017. Except, we've just learned that won't be happening in Skyway. Furthermore, there will be multiple opportunities to contribute both your time and ideas about the long-range plan and vision, except not in Skyway for community members this year. Diversity and equity social justice principles will be integrated into each public outreach strategy, including creation and use of small groups to elicit more meaningful policies, except not in Skyway this year. Although there is a plan for a March submittal to push this forward and make it happen quickly, community members have not yet even had an opportunity to see a draft of what will be submitted in March. This reminds me more of the way that health care and tax cuts are being held in the U.S. Senate than of good government planning policy. We're told that the plan will be primarily based on Skyway West Hill Action Plan, or SWAP. But this council voted that down last year, just last November, I believe. And the SWAP was never written as a comprehensive plan in the first place. You all know some of the challenges we've had in Skyway, particularly marijuana policy.
Marijuana policy was not discussed as part of the swap. The public engagement portion of that was last in 2015. Also,
Mr. Johnston, if you could please conclude. Your time is up.
I will. The plain fact is that Skyway has a bigger stake in requesting sanity in the county's marijuana policies than other communities at this point. And it would be beyond unfair for the county now to quash this vital community input to its planning process. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara Barnes, followed by Kasich Zenabi. If I can ask you to provide any written material to the clerk, who'll keep it for the record, make it available to all of us.
Yes, I'm Honorable Michael Fuller, Suite Jewers, Private Attorney General Jewers D. Jewers.
Hi, my name's Tara Barnes.
I apologize.
Oh.
I had earlier called a list of people, and Mr. Fuller was next on the list.
Sure.
And I missed my place when I called you. So if we can continue, I apologize. Mr. Fuller, please continue. My mistake.
I know it's your mistake. First, I'd like to thank my God for being here. I can't help it because I was in the coma for 4 months. I can't help it because I'm disabled. I can't help it because I have brain damage. But I always remember what my 2 neurologists told me after I got out of the coma for 4 months and not 4 days. Agents are smart, they can learn. That people will try to take advantage of me because I have brain damage. All right, well, now I'm going to allege the extraordinary abusive moral turpitude of extraordinary circumstances, reckless misconduct, wanton misconduct, and irreparable injury and harm to Black Lives Matter. This is not changing, or the dream Black Lives Matter can believe in. I'm looking at the extraordinary abuse of our First Amendment right, due process, equal protection of our 14th Amendment rights, and procedural due process and substantive due process that's being violated right today. I'm looking at RCW 42.52020, meaning activities incompatible with public duty. All of y'all on that panel, violation of your oath of office, RCW 2.04.080, your oath, RCW 2.24020, your oath, and RCW 2.48.210, your oath on admission. Now, Martin Luther King stated in 1967, where do we go from here? Now, we're talking agents are smart, they can learn. At the time of war in Afghanistan and Iraq, that was a betrayal against my father who served his country during the Korean War and Vietnam War, and you won't enforce the American with Disability Act, but then you have the audacity and the gumption to bring other folk from other countries would violate that Federal Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 8 U.S.C. 1324. 8 in parentheses 1 in parentheses 8 in parentheses IV in parentheses B in parentheses 3 I's in parentheses INA 274 8 in parentheses 1 in parentheses 8 in parentheses Section 8 USC 1325 improper entry aliens agents are smart they can learn. Black Lives Matter. This is not the changes or the dreams Black Lives Matter can believe in.
Thank you.
You will never be as articulate as me, man. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. You thought about running for office.
Thank you very much.
That's for the record.
And next is Tara Barnes. Ms. Barnes.
Well, I'm definitely not as articulate as you. My name's Tara Barnes, and I am...
welcome to the club.
Thank you. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm not here representing an organization. I'm asking the council... I'm sorry if I start crying. I'm very passionate about this. The animal cruelty laws in our state are a joke. They really are. We're supposed to be a progressive state that sets the standard for the rest of the world, or the rest of the country. And I wanted to present you guys with the evidence that this is something that the voters are very passionate about. I have 900 signatures that I was able to get in a total of 30 hours of petitioning from registered voters, 80% of them King County, who are extremely passionate about this cause. There have also been congressmen and governors in other states who have recently strengthened their animal cruelty laws. Congressman Jim Langvin of Rhode Island used strengthening animal cruelty laws as part of his platform, and he won. The governor of New Hampshire and the governor of Pennsylvania have recently strengthened animal cruelty laws in their states. One of them's a Republican, one of them's a Democrat. This speaks to everybody. Our FBI actually last year conducted several studies, and they discovered that 70% of violent criminals who have committed violent acts against society, including domestic violence and child abuse, started out by abusing animals. And I think that we should follow the FBI's lead because these people are dangerous. It's not going to stop at animals. They're going to go on and they're going to abuse children. They're going to abuse people that they think are weaker than them. And I know you guys all got into this field because you want to make our community stronger, and I'm just asking for you to endorse me in moving forward with this initiative to strengthen our animal cruelty laws. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and the clerk's staff will make copies of your materials for all the council members. Ms. Zenabi, good afternoon.
The Journal of Lifetime in one of...
If you'll pull the microphone down.
In one of the great dramatic promises of her life with her son, also little petrified and sitting by my side like a marble status manager explained of faint as courage plodded slowly on, enveloped by crash of Iran soldiers of salted beautiful traits and that turned their binoculars on her drive men shooting down with in the face Nobel and the losing of the were in the cross of the journey to understand the respective process utterly recorded every one's of compassion she had mountain in erased for the picture climb smile and the interesting wavy enormous as the day lengthened into night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? That's all I have in the list of people who signed up in advance. Is anyone present who hasn't had an opportunity to justify? If you'd step to one of the podiums and introduce yourself for the record. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrick Brady. I'm the Financial Secretary of Amalgamated Transit Union 587, and so I will speak on behalf of the union. I won't be here in case this question comes up at the point in which the council votes, hopefully in favor of the ratification of the agreement between King County and ATU 587. But I do feel like I need to state that the points in which my union brothers and sisters made, I do feel like they're valid points, but I also wish to express appreciation for the efforts that committee member and councilman Dembowski has made, along with the general manager Rob Gannon and our president Michael Shea have made to agree to focus on some of these issues that will remain and will need to be addressed going forward, and have all expressed an interest to
serve your employees with some of these questions that really came up a little bit late in the question that I feel like these will be addressed as quickly as possible. But as Councilman Dombrowski said, your options are really an up or down vote. And so I'm asking for a upvote today on behalf of our members so we can move forward with this agreement, and it'll be good for employee morale, and we'll be back with a good report through our president and general manager, Rob Gannon, and let you know that these other concerns have and will be addressed. I'm very confident in the very near future.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Sudert. I'm here today talking or speaking in for Nevzat, who has an espresso stand in Skyway. Someone referred to it earlier. He's currently trying to open a coffee house and a drive-through across the street from where he is located. My husband and I moved to Salciano back in 1981, and we live where we currently live now, just down the hill from Skyway. At that time, Skyway was a very kind of a self-sustained area. They had lots of businesses. It was really thriving. They had the usual bank, library, post office, fire station, plus a number of grocery stores. It was a place where you could go and buy just about anything you needed. A few years after that, Nevzat came with his espresso stand. And then, as time passed, some of the businesses left, and the area was not kept up. And so the businesses left. The thing now is I'm really excited because here's an opportunity for a new business to come into the area. And but the thing is, Nevzat has to have a drive-through along with the coffee house because that's what his business was before, and that's where his clientele lies. So you all look like reasonable people, and so I'm hoping that you will consider this and make a positive move to allow him to realize this dream he has. I think it will really benefit the community. Thanks.
I'm Carolyn Malone, and I'm here because of the continuing negative dueling issues in my life that affects my existence and quality of life, and that is homelessness and police harassment and intimidation. Since 2011, I've been evicted 3 times. The last time, some fictitious company purchased a house, a claim to, and I was evicted on October 5th from housing. The other issue is police harassment, because I have the audacity to be an outspoken black woman and file complaints against them in the spirit of my ancestors, because if my ancestors weren't defiant, I'd still be in slavery. So I filed complaints. King County Deputy Jeffrey Maw on July 16th claimed that my driver's license was suspended. My stomach is quivering, and it shouldn't. And on July 17th, he stopped me and gave me a whopping $550 ticket for not having a photo ID. He held it in his hands. I am going through court now to find out why my license was illegally suspended on one day, and the next day I get a ticket. July 15th, I happened to talk to a Seattle Times reporter about the issue of police harassment. On July 18th, I needed my license to fly to another state. I was able to retain my license, but Jeffrey Mall told me if he caught me driving again, he's going to arrest me and take me to jail. I've been driving since I returned from Louisiana, and I continue to drive because I defy a racist cop to stop me again, to suspend my license and write another ticket. Their brutality needs to end now.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment, general public comment today? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Ira Sakharov. I just want to comment on the amendment that's going to be voted on later, sponsored by Councilmember Gossett. I want to thank Councilmember Gossett for it. This is the Skyway issue. You know, when you live in Skyway, you get used to things that you feel are imposed on you that you don't have much say in. In Skyway, there are casinos that most cities don't have, and there's an abundance of marijuana stores. So if you want to gamble and get stoned, it's a great neighborhood, but there's not one place to go sit down and have a cup of coffee. And I want to thank Councilmember Gossett for sponsoring this, and I hope you all pass it.
Thank you. Further public comment? Further, if you're going to speak, you need to step to a podium and introduce yourself for the record, please. Good afternoon.
Hello. My name's Barry Williams. Been in Skyway for 54 years. And I just want to thank you folks, thank Larry for trying to get this pushed through for NAVSAT. He's a great man, great business person, and just wanted to thank you folks. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Hi, and good afternoon. My name is Alex Perry, and I've been a homeowner in Skyway since 1994. I've watched the decline of the Skyway Business District since I've been there. But I'm hopeful that with the new library and the grocery bargain market and the facelift that the Greater Seattle Gospel Temple is doing on their storefront, that we're seeing a little bit of an upswing. And that makes me feel positive. Now we need a daytime watering hole. And by that, I mean a coffee shop. We have a bar. We need a coffee shop. We need a place to congregate and talk with our neighbors and friends. That place could be NAVSAT's. In the years of doing business in Skyway, NAVSAT has created the United Nations of clientele. He has matched homeowners / residents with tradespeople who he talks to in his day-to-day goings on, and they've gotten their jobs done and the tradespeople have gotten work. I say that's a win-win. We need more businessmen and women like NAVSAT on the Hill, and hopefully they will come. In the meantime, let's get to yes on the proposed movement of his business from one side of Renton Avenue to the other. I want a place where I can go drive through or get a cup of coffee and not have to look at public urination, drug sales, and public intoxication, to be quite honest, which is what's happening in the parking lot where he's currently located. And I would love to have a place where I could go get a nosh, just with my friends, really kind of close to home, make it like a neighborhood. And so let's, and who knows, with NAVSAT's success, maybe other businesses will come. And wouldn't it be nice to have income generating, job creating, and tax paying businesses in Skyway? Please pass proposal 2017-338. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've caught up to what's gone on. Some of you have wondered, you thought you signed up and I wasn't calling your name, and so you're stepping up. We have general public comment, and we have a public hearing on the ordinances on today's agenda. So you signed up on one sheet. You know what? We're just going to keep going and take it all in order now. and I'll be good. So I've caught up to the sign-up sheet and realized people had signed up. If you'll introduce yourself and go ahead and offer your testimony.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. I just wanted to get in there.
I figured out, Councilmember Balducci was waving at me, including me on what was going on.
Well, thank you very much. My name's Tanya Crocker, and I'm a member of the community in Skyway. And I want to thank the City Council for acting swiftly and the Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee for recommending approval of the proposed ordinance number 2017-0338. I urge the full Council's approval of this ordinance as a gesture to our Skyway community to demonstrate our inclusion in local government decisions that affect us. I ask the Council to facilitate the quickest conclusion to this zoning update so work can begin on the coffee shop expansion and neighborhood improvement that is so very needed. I want to thank Mr. Gossett for the help that he's provided at our request, and especially because it was probably not the top priority that this council has. I don't know how you guys do this every day or every week. It would just be very difficult. And I know that city and state representatives and government officials don't get appreciated. I do realize that. But boy, after today, I really appreciate all that you do for us. And I know this isn't the top most important thing. Sewer sounded kind of more important to me, but I thank you. I thank everybody here for the work, and I hope that you can help us get this done. It's getting cold outside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I don't have too much more to add, but I'm another one of the people. My name is Kevin Cerrone. I'm here to support Nevzat and his bid for a new coffee shop across the street from where he is now. I moved into Skyway about a year ago, and like I said, I don't have too much to add other than the fact that so many of Nevzat's customers have taken time out of their day to come in and speak on behalf of him shows what a pillar of the community he is, and I think it's just sort of a no-brainer to help a guy who's as much of a class act as him do what he wants to do to make the community better. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Who else?
My name's Ron Minter. Just a segue in all this, it's absolutely true that we need this coffee shop in Skyway. There's no doubt about that. But I'd like to take it just a little bit farther, saying we need to have more people like this. We need to support NESVAT. We need to find out what it takes to bring new people into this country, bring immigrants into this country, and see somebody who's hardworking as this. This is really something that we need to be looking at for the people. It's not just the business in Skyway. It's not just for the community in Skyway. It's actually for the people who are coming into this country and working so hard to make this country better. NESVAT's one of those. We need to support that. Thank you.
So we had gone through the public comment sign-up sheet, and we've now worked our way through most of the public hearing sign-up sheet. In fact, the only two names I have on this sheet who had signed in to testify on items on today's agenda have also testified under public comment. You're welcome to comment again if it's on something on today's agenda. Ms. Richard and Mark Johnston.
Yes, the only reason why I came back up here again is because I heard Mr. Miller. He said he was an employee of Metro Transit, and he did state that he was paying out of his pocket. Is that the norm, where they buy tools out of their pocket to work? I mean, my cousin is a mechanic with Metro, and he's been there just about as long as Mr. Miller here. And so I am ultimately concerned about my cousin being employed at said time. And then a person of his stature, he's black, a black man coming up in here saying that he was paying out of his pocket to do something, where the county is supposed to be taking care of that. So I'm speaking on that because transportation is on here. You're voting on measures and things concerning transportation, and that really sends me in a tizzy, in the wrong state of mind, to have somebody come in here and testify that they're having problems with having to pay something out of their pocket to go to work. And then when we come here, you people really don't have to talk back to us. But sometimes over at City Council, if they like what you're saying, oh yeah, you can come to my office and we'll talk about it, or I'll write you a letter, or I'll do something about that. But if this is going on repeatedly, how come nobody is looking into things like that? I'm just out of my head today with listening to stuff like that. I didn't even know stuff like that happened in government. Is that true, Mr. Gossett? I see you looking at me too. And you don't normally say anything either. And that's a concern of mine. Even those people in Congress, they talk back to people. But it's something systematic. I don't know if it's oppression, repression, suppression, and depression that you're involved in terms of spewing this out to the constituents, where they have to come up in here like this.
And Mr. Johnston.
Well, thanks again. I'm Mark Johnston from Skyway, and I'd like to enthusiastically support Nevzat in his quest to move across the street. But seriously, folks, how silly is this to be spending hours and weeks in the pursuit of this one narrow planning process? And I'm going to take this as a sign that there is going to be a new day in Skyway for good planning, for a healthier community, and for the kids and grandchildren of today's Skyway residents to be as happy as possible. Thank you.
We had also signed up, but we're not on the list.
I've been calling for additional people. You're welcome to testify. Mr. Zimmerman, you seem to be at the podium. If we'd welcome your public comment on items on today's agenda.
Thank you very much, sir. Heil, my dirty AA Führer, a Nazi social democrat mafia with progressive Gestapo principle. My name is Alex Zimmerman, and I'm president of Stand Up America. I want to speak about agenda number 11 about King Country Housing Authority. For 30 years, I know these crooks. 30 years, these crooks steal people money. Salary for top 30 management quadruple for last 20 years. Director have right now more than $200,000. Because I know these people 30 years ago, and I know these people now, and because I'm a professional and business consultant, so I try to understand what is different this crook doing for $50,000 before, so right now doing for $200,000. We cannot find different. So right now question very simple. Who will help this 100,000 family who need help now? More than 50%, I think approximately 60% plus right now low income. We cannot afford live right now in situation what is you crook did this with Amazon, with Council, Seattle Council, and King Country Council. Ever Seattle, New York Times right now print a huge article yesterday about Amazon, about Seattle, and what is happening now. So my question right now, when we stop and crook, like working for King Country Housing Authority and steal us money, I complain about them in FBI twice about stealing $1 million. It's acting like a mafia, and nobody care about this. You never audit these people, you never control this crook, because you all belong to same mafia, a Nazi social democrat mafia. It's exactly who you are. Stand up America, stand up Seattle, stand up King Country. We need to clean this dirty chamber from this crook. Thank you very much.
Ms. Cato.
So, every time I get a chance, I ask each and every one of you, which one of you as government employees will help and support opening up the birther room? Do you agree that that's a good idea to help the community restore their freedom of speech and constitution when it comes to making decisions that are affecting them in the community? Gossip, you being the president, all of you other council members and chairs, doesn't it make sense to open a birther room since it's free for the next mayor?
Excuse me.
Don't interrupt my freedom of speech.
If I could ask you to please direct your comments to items on today's agenda, please.
It is, because every single item on the agenda is affected by the democratic fascism and the control that's going on in Seattle today, just like what you just demonstrated. You just demonstrated to me control because you're trying to control what it is that I'm talking about, because I'm asking you a direct question that you don't want to answer. So don't demonstrate it for us if you don't want to be called what it is that we call you, and just show your support in opening up the birther room instead, so that we can restore our freedom of speech in our Constitution, so that the community is inclusive on the decisions that are being made that are affecting them, not just you and your government corporations. So instead of stopping us in the tracks of us expressing our ideas and concerns, consider supporting it instead. You supporting us in the Constitution and our freedom to speak is more powerful than anything else, because you will become a leader in the community to help us stop the democratic fascism that is going on today. Stop trying to control everything and help us be all equal to all things that are going on in our city, instead of using your Nazi Gestapo principles to punish us for calling you out or asking you direct questions that you cannot answer. So put your energy in showing support. Open up the birther room in City Hall once a week for open, honest conversation. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to offer either public comment or public testimony on items on today's agenda? If you'd please approach the podium. Good afternoon.
My name is Lou LaCroix, and I'm president of the West Hill Community Association. And I would like to, again, let the council know on behalf of our citizens in the West Hill that we want a coffee shop. And not only has the gentleman been kind enough to want to start a business that our citizens value, he also wants to add food to that establishment, so at a sit down. I've been in the community for over 50 years. At every meeting I go to, when we start asking what would you like to see, the coffee shop is among those things. So I hope you will keep that in mind when you make your decision to change or give an exemption for the existing zoning in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to please read items 8 through 12 into the record. 15.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 8 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0355, approving and adopting the memorandum of agreement regarding the supported employment program negotiated by and between King County and Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 587, representing employees in the Department of Transportation. Item 9 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0378, providing long-term financing for capital needs of the county's sewer system by authorizing the issuance of sewer revenue bonds and limited tax general obligation bonds payable from sewer revenues of the county for refunding outstanding obligations of the county payable from sewer revenues, providing for the forms, terms, and covenants of such bonds, providing for the sale of the bonds in one or more series and for a plan of refunding, establishing funds for the receipt and expenditure of bond proceeds and for the payment of the bonds, pledging sewer revenues to pay the principal of and interest on sewer revenue bonds issued under this ordinance, and pledging the annual levy of taxes and an additional pledge of sewer revenues to pay the principal of and interest on limited tax general obligation bonds payable from sewer revenues issued under this ordinance. Item 10 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0379, providing long-term financing for capital needs of the county's sewer system by authorizing the issuance of sewer revenue bonds and limited tax general obligation bonds payable from sewer revenues of the county in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $500 million to provide funds for acquiring and constructing improvements to the sewer system, providing for the forms, terms, and covenants of such bonds, providing for the sale of the bonds in one or more series, establishing funds for the receipt and expenditure of bond proceeds and for the payment of the bonds, pledging sewer revenues to pay the principal of and interest on sewer revenue bonds issued under this ordinance, and pledging the annual levy of taxes and an additional pledge of sewer revenues to pay the principal of and interest on limited tax general obligation bonds. Item 11 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0380, providing long-term financing for capital needs of the county's sewer system by authorizing the issuance of junior lien sewer revenue bonds of the county in an aggregate principal of $50 million to provide funds for acquiring and constructing improvements to the sewer system, providing for the forms, terms, and covenants of such bonds, providing for the sale of the bonds, establishing funds for the receipt and expenditure of bond proceeds and for the payment of the bonds, and pledging sewer revenues to pay the principal of and interest on junior lien sewer revenue bonds issued under this ordinance. Item 12 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0398, approving and adopting the collective bargaining agreement negotiated by and between King County and International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 302, Equipment Operators, Departments, Natural Resources, and Parks and Transportation, and establishing the effective date of said agreement. Item 13 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0376 relating to credit enhancement for affordable housing, establishing a King County Housing Authority credit enhancement program, replacing outdated references to the Housing Opportunity Fund. Item 14 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0338 relating to permitting and zoning. And item 15 is proposed ordinance number 2017-0404 approving and adopting the collective bargaining agreement negotiated by and between King County and Amalgamated Transit Union Local 587, Department of Transportation, representing employees in the Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Councilmember Dembowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to make sure I know what's on consent here. I want to move it.
You're right. In fact, you're right. There is an error on the printed agenda. The consent agenda itself is items 8 through 12.
That's what I thought. I'll move adoption of items 8 through 12.
Councilmember Dembowski has moved adoption of the consent agenda items 8 through 12. Madam Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Balducci? Aye. Councilmember Dembowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Gossett?
Aye.
Councilmember Cole-Wells?
Aye.
Councilmember Lambert? Aye. Councilmember Updegrove?
Aye.
Councilmember Von Reitbauer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. Having received the required majority, ordinances 2017-355, 378, 379, 380, and 398 are each adopted. That takes us to item 13. Councilmember Cole-Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move proposed ordinance 2017-0376.
Councilmember Cole-Wells has moved adoption of ordinance 2017-376. Councilmember Cole-Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proposed ordinance 2017-0376 would create a $200 million credit enhancement program for King County Housing Authority. Currently, the county does have a $200 million credit enhancement program for expanding affordable housing. It's a program that was initiated by the county more than 20 years ago and has been successful in helping King County support the purchase and construction of affordable housing units. So this proposed ordinance would in effect expand the program to allow the King County Housing Authority to be able to enhance its ability to purchase and construct affordable housing in our county. You may know that credit enhancement is a financing tool through which a borrower improves its credit worthiness and by doing so secures better financing terms. It receives a guarantee in effect that a third party will loan funds to the borrower if the borrower does not have sufficient funds to make its debt service payments. So we know that we need more affordable housing. We don't just need more affordable housing, we need a whole lot of additional affordable housing. And it's been, for quite a while now, one of the top priorities of our council. I think that this is a very important tool that can go a long way by having the King County Housing Authority be able to take advantage of the terms that are available under this program. It's been thoroughly reviewed by our staff, by the county's independent financial advisor, by the Executive Finance Committee, and by our Health, Housing, and Human Services Committee. So I recommend this to you, and I think it's very important to note that it's based on individual cases, in effect, a case-by-case basis in terms of applications being proposed, reviewed, and approved based on the financial viability of each project. We know that we have to do something like this. I believe there is sufficient safeguarding in place for the county, and I recommend it to you. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Dombowski.
Having a colloquy with our budget chair here. I appreciate the remarks of Councilmember Colwell's and voted to advance this out of committee. I had a number of questions not around the benefits of this, which the Housing Authority tells us will allow them to have perhaps create an additional 2,000 units, which is terrific. And I have great respect for and appreciation of the work that the Housing Authority for the County of King does. They've been very effective and are well managed, which gives us some confidence. I met with Mr. Dively on this because we're talking about doubling our exposure to this entity from $200 to $400 million, and asked a number of questions around the steps taken to protect King County's taxpayers for this additional risk. I do think it's worth noting that our general fund, I think, will get maybe 4 or 5 basis points, which is lower than the 13 to 14 basis points that we charge our own utilities for similar credit enhancements. So it's a little bit different than what we usually do. I read the memorandum, having asked for it from Piper Jaffray, our independent outside financial advisors. That lists some 20 or more, I think, risks I'm estimating there. At the end of it, though, our advisor concludes that this is a reasonable risk given the policy advantages. I have a little concern. My gut tells me that this is a big deal and that as long as things are going well, we'll be fine. And I hope that it continues to go that way. I would note that this is a different program than what we have now, where we have an asset-based guarantee program that's based on the specific project, and our security here is related to the overall revenues of the Housing Authority should something go wrong. One of the risks that is noted in the Piper Jaffray memo is a substantial change in federal policy related to rental housing support. So we pay close attention to those issues here. We have a strong federal relations agenda and support that. But you could, if there were significant changes coming out of Washington, that could be something we'd want to keep an eye on. So I think it's, as Councilmember Upthrow, our budget chair, said in committee, he thinks the risk is quite low based on what we've been told, and I agree with that. But I think we should watch these on a going forward basis. And in working with Dwight on it, I did ask if he thought it would be a good idea to develop a standard set of policies related to these kinds of arrangements, and he thought that that was a good idea and would be doing that. So based on the recommendations from our outside advisors and our own finance staff and their expression of confidence in the deal, I'm prepared to vote yes today on this, having those assurances.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councilmember Colwells? Anything to close?
No, I agree with Councilmember Dombowski's remarks, though, and I believe that we have vetted this. We've vetted it in many, many ways, and I think it will have enormous rewards for our county, and especially for those who are low income and have infirm conditions. So I very much appreciate the ability to bring this before us, and I'm hopeful that we can approve it.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Balducci. Councilmember Dombowski. Aye. Councilmember Dunn.
Aye.
Councilmember Gossett.
Aye.
Councilmember Colwells.
Aye.
Councilmember Lambert.
Aye.
Councilmember Upthgrove.
Aye.
Councilmember Von Reitbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. Having received the required majority, ordinance 2017-376 is adopted. Councilmember Dombowski.
Mr. Chair, move adoption of proposed ordinance 2017-0338. This is the Skyway zoning ordinance. I defer to Councilmember Gossett.
Councilmember Dombowski has moved adoption of ordinance 2017-338. Councilmember Gossett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we adopt this ordinance too. A little background. The ordinance will modify one provision in our special district overlay for the Skyway Business District. And under existing code, drive-through, retail, and service uses are not permitted within the SDO. Under the proposed ordinance, however, that Councilmember Dombowski just put before us, we are proposing that there be an exception which would be added that would allow, and I quote, eating places to have drive-throughs in buildings that existed before July of 2017. that's the essential or main change that we would like to make in the ordinance. I would also like to state that this was not an easy effort. It took months of discussions with DEEPR, our land use office. They reminded us that way back in 1994, the community, the West Hill Community Association, was very adamant and saying that we needed to develop a special overlay that would encourage walking and businesses that didn't require cars to be driven through this area. I didn't know about the issue until after Mr. Kinkara and the other folks that supported him had initiated a petition campaign, and nobody ever called my office. Somebody did call in the fall of 2016 and say that they have a petition going against you, Mr. Gossett, saying that you're not allowing somebody to put a business that's a drive-through in. And we and others have been asked to sign it, so we quickly tried to get to the bottom of it, met with DEEPR. My staff called Mr. Kinkaya. We had a meeting with him on March 15, 2017. That was the first time that I remember meeting him yet. There was an article written that said that we met way back in 2015 and that he was not pleased with that meeting, but we never had a meeting in 2015. However, in closing, I think it's very important, given all the dynamic activities created around this issue, that we pass this amendment. I think it'll be healthy for the community because he clearly has broad-based support from all the various people that live in that community, and we were able to propose this change without it impacting other districts in our county that have overlay areas. Thank you. I urge your support.
Councilmember Dembowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take a minute to express appreciation to Councilmember Gossett and his team for his work on this. As chair of the committee overseeing zoning, Transportation Economy Environment Committee, we had heard from residents of the community and reached out to DEEPR staff and our staff in conjunction with Councilmember Gossett's office to see if there was anything we could do to address this. This was over a year ago, and we're told no, and we pushed, and we're told no, there really isn't. Around the same time, the SWAP, the West Hill Skyway West Hill Action Plan was being finalized and advanced, and we really thought that we would probably adopt that with the major comprehensive plan adoption last year, but it was determined that it needed some more work. So despite the no's, Councilmember Gossett didn't give up, and he and his team engaged and found a way to make this happen. And I just want to give some credit where credit is due there, that he was responsive and tenacious, and but for his efforts, this would not be before us because we heard a lot of no's and it can't be done and it's impossible to do. So I commend him for it. And just on a personal note, my little time in Skyway at Dimmitt Middle School, I remember my classmate George Chung going to work after school at his family's Chinese restaurant and stopping by the 7-Eleven for the Slurpees after floor hockey, and it was a vibrant, special community, and it definitely could use a little help. So I think this is a positive addition, along with the library and other new investments there. The council made a point to set aside $1 million, I think, Councilmember Gossett, at your bequest, to advance improvements to athletic facilities or community center there. So we heard a lot of folks today, and I think it's important they know that we hear them and we're with them. And on this particular item, it's a small step, but an important one, and it wouldn't be happening but for your work.
Thank you.
Councilmember Up the Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add my appreciation to Councilmember Gossett as well. The district I represent does not include Skyway, but it abuts up adjacent to Skyway. And I have folks who live in my community who care about this as well, who have shared this petition with me some time ago. And I appreciate Councilmember Gossett's leadership in getting it done. I guess I also want to say I apologize it took so long. Our county staff follows the rules that we adopt, and when we try to work through that bureaucratic process, and they're doing their job, sometimes we realize that the rules that we've laid down don't fit right. And sometimes the time it takes to work within that system and then get it to council to change, to do what's necessary to make it work takes a long time. And I know this took a long time, and I'm just glad we got there in the end and appreciate the good work of the council members.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Anything to close?
No, sir. Again, I'd just like to thank my colleagues for their comments and urge all of us to support this measure. I think it's the right thing to do at the right time, and the beneficiary has had a long, successful record of serving the people 12 hours, 7 days a week, and I'm confident that he will continue that.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Balducci? Aye. Councilmember Dembowski? Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Gossett?
Aye.
Councilmember Cole-Wells?
Aye.
Councilmember Lambert? Aye. Councilmember Updegrove? Aye. Councilmember Von Reitbauer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. Having received the required majority, ordinance 2017-338 is adopted. Councilmember Dembowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move adoption of proposed ordinance 2017-0404.
Councilmember Dembowski has moved adoption of ordinance 2017-404. Councilmember Dembowski.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is the adoption of the ATU Local 587 contract effective November 1st, 2016 through October 31st, 2019. It is before the council today on a unanimous do-pass recommendation from the Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee. The bargaining unit here and the contract covers some 4,100 employees of the Transit Division. It is our largest contract in terms of employee groups. It's our bus drivers, our transit operators, our streetcar operators, our light rail operators, and our maintenance folks and others. And as you've heard some testimony, it was a tough contract to get done, but in the first one, tentative agreement was in fact rejected. They went back to the bargaining table and got this one done, and I understand that on the whole that the workforce is quite happy with it. One of the things that it does address, and we heard a lot about in the last couple, 3 years here, are transit breaks, or our breaks rather, for transit operators, making sure that they have adequate time. And as you all know, we've been building some of those times into our routes by making additional investments. It does a number of other items. It allows Metro to increase the number of full-time transit operators to reflect our region's increasingly all-day transit network. We've been making investments in there to build up that all-day frequent network. This takes care of the labor side of that, to making sure that we can deliver it. And it provides additional opportunities for part-time operators, such as the ability to drive weekend shifts. The agreement includes a pilot project for vehicle maintenance employees at Atlantic Base that would have them make a commitment to that base for a full year, with the expectation that the pilot will permit more intensive employee training and greater certainty around scheduling at that base. We appreciate everyone who worked on it. You heard some testimony today regarding a pay differential for maintenance workers. And that issue was brought to my and maybe others' attention ahead of the committee hearing on this item. And I did reach out to General Manager Gannon and the ATU folks. We got together, and they are working on an expedited basis to see if they can address that. To just make sure you're all informed, the contract is silent as to the effective date of a pay differential of about 5% for some 800 maintenance workers, and that's an issue that they want to try and get resolved. It does not address anything related to this Department of Labor settlement and how that applies or doesn't apply to part-time workers, which is the other issue you heard about today. But on the whole, a very good contract. It is financially responsible in terms of the pay increases and tying those basically to inflation and having a true-up provision, and I encourage members to support it.
Further discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Balducci?
Aye.
Councilmember Dembowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Gossett?
Aye.
Councilmember Cole-Wells?
Aye.
Councilmember Lambert?
Aye.
Councilmember Updegrove?
Aye.
Councilmember Von Reitbauer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. Having received the required majority, Ordinance 2017-404 is adopted. Madam Clerk, will you please read items 16 and 17 into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 16 is proposed motion number 2017-0309, confirming the executive's appointment of Holly Craig Key, who resides in Council District 8, to the King County International Airport Roundtable as the Georgetown Community Representative. And item 17 is proposed motion number 2017-0381, ratifying the issuance and sale of the county's junior lien sewer revenue bonds, Series 2017, in the aggregate principal amount of $50 million, authorizing the execution and delivery of a continuing covenant agreement in connection therewith and establishing certain terms of those bonds.
Councilmember Dembowski.
Move adoption.
Councilmember Dembowski has moved adoption of the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Balducci?
Aye.
Councilmember Dembowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Gossett?
Aye.
Councilmember Cole-Wells?
Aye.
Councilmember Lambert? Councilmember Updegrove? Councilmember Von Reitbauer? Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. Having received the required majority, motions 2017-309 and 381 are each adopted. Councilmember Updegrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the proposed motion 2017-0387 be referred back to the Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee.
Councilmember Updegrove has moved that motion 2017-387 be referred back to the Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, will you please read items 19 and 20, the reappointment consent agenda, into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 19 is proposed motion number 2017-0438, confirming the executive's reappointment of Leslie Arai, who works in Council District 4, to the King County Employee Giving Program Committee representing the King County Department of Information Technology. And item 20 is proposed motion number 2017-0445, confirming the executive's reappointment of Kevin Kelly, who resides in Council District 4, to the King County Solid Waste Advisory Committee representing the waste management industry.
Councilmember Dembowski.
Move adoption.
Councilmember Dembowski has moved adoption of the reappointment consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Balducci?
Aye.
Councilmember Dembowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Gossett?
Aye.
Councilmember Cole-Wells?
Aye.
Councilmember Lambert?
Aye.
Councilmember Updegrove? Councilmember Von Reitbauer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. Having received the required majority, motions 2017-483 and 445 are each adopted. If there is no objection, the published marked agenda will stand approved. If there is no objection, the published marked agenda, together with any changes made in today's meeting, will stand approved as the first reading and referral of ordinances and motions, items 21 through 29, as listed. With that, I don't know about the rest of you, colleagues, but I have been waiting all week with bated breath for Councilmember Cole-Wells' report on the Seattle North King County Transportation Forum, more popularly known as Seashore. Please.
Enlighten you. Thank you, Mr. Chach. I think it's been about 2 or 3 weeks you've been waiting with bated breath.
No, I was only waiting eagerly for the last week.
Okay, well, not wanting to keep you in suspense anymore, actually, the Seashore Transportation Forum met on October 6th at the Shoreline City Hall. And noteworthy, it was a very suspenseful, even contentious meeting, which I think is a bit surprising for this organization. Most of the meeting featured a discussion on the interlocal agreement between King County and member cities for the next 3 years. And what I learned is this is done every 3 years in the 3 regional transportation organizations. And the issue was whether or not there should be an expansion of the voting rights for some of the small cities. Right now, there are 4 entities that have full voting rights. Those are Seattle, Shoreline, King County, and Lake Forest Park. And there had been requests from some of the other small cities that attend and are able to participate fully just in the membership types of responsibilities, that they be given full voting rights for all parts of what comes before this group. And there had been quite a lot of discussion on this. The three options were to provide all member jurisdictions full voting rights, but not allowing them to compete in multi-transportation boards. Also, to just keep things the way they are now, or thirdly, to give some cities in the 522 corridor in South Snohomish County limited voting rights, but not on anything that goes before the Puget Sound Regional Council for regional competition. So after a lot of discussion, a lot of issues being taken, Lake Forest Park was unwilling to expand to full voting rights for all of the cities. And I didn't know this, and you may know this, but in order to change the voting rights, there has to be a unanimous vote. And because of one of the cities not wanting to do that, that did not happen. But the body chose to support the option, which still granted the other cities more voting rights than they had previously, but still limited. So that is my report, Mr. Chair. The suspense is over. You now know what an exciting meeting this was.
It was worth every moment of anticipation,
Absolutely.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Lambert.
Thank you. I have a question on that. Which city voted no?
Lake Forest, excuse me. Well, there was not a vote taken. It was, to have that full, because it had to be unanimous. But it was Lake Forest Park.
Okay.
And in the end, all was unanimous in terms of the expanded new rights.
Thank you.
Limited rights.
Councilmember Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some unfortunate news that's coming up on the screen that I just got a little bit ago. And this is a friend of ours whose son is missing. And he's asked that we let everybody know. You might recognize the guy on the right. He is not missing. That is Representative Paul Graves. And the person on the left is his foster son, Chad. And Chad has come up. Chad is missing. And he's been missing since Saturday. They're doing an all-out push with the police, and it'll be on tonight's news. But they're asking anybody that please see Chad to call the police immediately, and they're very concerned about him. So I just wanted people to know that if you see Chad, that we are looking for him and we want him to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Knowing of no other business to come before us, we are adjourned.